You finally speak up in the meeting, and the words land flat, like the room had already decided you weren't worth hearing. That small sting of being invisible follows you the rest of the day. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, and in his private notebook, he wrote that a good man does his work and never needs anyone to notice. So why does being overlooked feel like being erased? Today's story is about a man who spent 3 years trying to be unforgettable, and the morning he finally understood why no one remembered him. Daniel was 31, loud, certain, the first hand up in every meeting, because at a company quietly bleeding clients, being unforgettable felt like the only way to survive the next round of cuts. Every evening, the same old janitor wheeled his cart past Daniel's glass office. Neither of them ever said a word. He spoke first in every meeting, and rode the elevator down afterward, replaying every sentence, certain he'd already been forgotten. One morning, Daniel came in before dawn to rehearse a presentation no one had asked for. The office was dark and empty, except for the old man, slowly wiping down the long table in the boardroom. "Big speech today?" the janitor asked, not looking up. "Something like that." The old man kept wiping. "I've watched a lot of men practice being important in this room." "Worth isn't what the room gives you," he said. "It's what you do when the room isn't looking." Daniel laughed it off. The janitor just nodded at the table. "Try it. Pick one thing tomorrow that no one will ever thank you for. Do it like it matters." Daniel told himself the old man was just a janitor. What would he know about meetings that mattered, about careers, about survival? Do the work no one sees. That's how you stay invisible. The whole point was to be seen. So the next afternoon, he did the opposite. He took the floor in the strategy meeting and talked longer than anyone, louder than anyone, listing every idea he'd ever had. He watched their faces, waiting for the room to light up. It didn't. The director gave a tight nod and moved on. Someone checked their phone. Daniel sat down with his ears burning, and for the first time, he heard how empty his own voice had sounded. A man shouting to be told he existed. That evening, Daniel found him in the boardroom again and asked, almost angry, how a janitor could possibly understand. The old man set down his cloth. 41 years ago, I sat in that chair you want so badly. Vice president. Youngest they'd ever had. I talked the loudest. I heard the least. A quiet man on my team warned us a deal would sink the company. I talked right over him, to look decisive. He was right. People lost their jobs. He picked the cloth back up. I stayed. I just stopped needing the room to see me. Daniel couldn't sleep. He came in early again, and found the old man crouched behind a filing cabinet, polishing a strip of floor no one would ever see. Soft. He worked it exactly as carefully as the rest. No audience. No reason. Just the work. He stood there for longer than he meant to. The old man didn't look up, didn't slow down, didn't need an audience for any of it. Daniel left without saying a word, and sat at his desk for an hour before the meeting began, not rehearsing anything. That afternoon, Daniel said nothing in the meeting. He listened. At the end, he asked one quiet question, small, almost shy, about a client no one else had mentioned. Weeks passed. Daniel talked less and noticed more. People began bringing him real problems instead of watching him perform. Then the CEO called an emergency meeting. The company was weeks from going under. One by one, the senior leaders spoke, each louder than the last, each circling the same dead end. In the corner, the old janitor raised his hand. A few people smirked. The CEO almost moved past him. It was Daniel's turn. He had the floor he'd spent years chasing, the whole room finally looking at him. Worth isn't what the room gives you. He set down his notes. We should hear from the man who's been in this room longer than all of us. The old man stood. 41 years I've cleaned this floor. I've heard every meeting that ever happened in here. Then, quietly, he named the one thing they'd all walked past. This time, the room listened. You spend your days waiting for a room to tell you that you matter. But the people who change everything are usually the ones who stopped asking. Worth is never something to be given. It is something quietly earned. If this reminded you of someone the world overlooks, or of yourself, let it sit a moment. Then tell me one thing below. When was the last time you did something well that no one saw? I read every comment. Long after the room emptied, the old man was still there, wiping down the long table. Slow, careful, the way he always had. The light caught the polished wood. This time, someone had stayed to watch.